Kara Shalom, welcome to Heinrich Edgecome Art. Our goal today is to present a detailed demonstration for you, our valued members-only supporters. Irises are said to represent wisdom, hope, and courage, and we wish to give you all three with this beautiful painting. The materials used are listed in the description below. Remember to have your gouache or white acrylic ready for the highlights. There is a link to the drawing in the description below. Let's have a look at the palette first. The easiest one to identify is Scarlet Lake, top left. Then, anti-clockwise, we have Indigo, a mixture of Scarlet Lake and Indigo to create a greyish purple, followed by Dioxazine Violet. You need the blues and purples to create variation in the petals. From there, we have Gamboge Nova, a green mix made from Gamboge and Indigo, raw Sienna, and finally Lavender. These mixes are very diluted as you are going to layer them to create the depth you need in the color. The paper is taped to a plastic board which is flat on the table. The mixtures on the palette are very watery. You are going to use a few layers to build up the depth in the colors, and you are going to work wet on dry to start with. We use Gamboge Nova to start with the soft feathery yellow parts of the iris. These are called the beard and serve to guide beads into the heart of the flower. The beard is located on the downward petals, known as the falls. These feathery parts are unique to bearded irises. In the painting, they serve as a beautiful opportunity to play with texture and contrast. The soft luminous stroke of yellow against the velvety fall creates lovely depth and dimension in your flower. It is sometimes useful to start with these smaller areas to give you an idea of where the separation of the petals is, especially if your sketch has a measure of complexity. Defining the center will give you a better understanding of the shape of the flower. Use the tip of the brush to drop a touch of Scarlet Lake into the wet yellow areas to create a beautiful, vibrant orange, which will contrast nicely with the purple of the falls. You can substitute Gamboge with raw Sienna to give a more subdued yellow in some areas. Add a tiny drop of dioxazine here to create a shadow effect and to define the base of the flower. Vary that with a drop of green without rinsing your brush. Then rinse your brush to pick up a bit of pure raw sienna to complete the layer. It is important to work very lightly to allow the colors to blend and fuse naturally. Use raw sienna and some of the green mix for the bud on the left, and drop a tiny bit of indigo at the base to ground the bud to the stem. Add some dioxazine for the flowering part of the bud. Continue to paint the leaves and stalks while you wait for the yellow parts to dry. By adding a bit more Gamboge to the green mix, you will get a warmer green as opposed to the cooler green when there's more indigo. Use more indigo when you reach the lower parts of the stalks to make them a bit darker. Contrast between light and dark creates interest and dimension. When you start with the next leaf, use more yellow where the leaf touches the petal. The yellow will contrast nicely with the purple that you will use in the petal later. The warmth of the yellow brings the leaf to the front, so you can use the cooler green with more indigo for the leaves that you want in the back. Varying the greens will help to create depth. When one follows a tutorial, one often feels overwhelmed by the types of brushes and pigments used by the tutor. Remember that you can use what you have. It is the technique and the color combinations that count. While you allow your first layers to dry, ensure that the pigments in your palette stay diluted. You want to work with very transparent mixtures. We will start with the petals shortly. You will work wet on dry and use your first diluted layer of lavender as a wet base, which you will then charge with the other purples. Remember to work very lightly with the brush. Work with one petal at a time. Start with a watery mix of lavender, and then charge the lavender with a touch of dioxazine, and then add a drop of indigo. Avoid working on the petals which are next to each other, as they may bleed into each other and ruin the effect. It is important to preserve the contrast between light and dark in order to define each petal, so keep your layers as transparent as possible. You can also achieve this separation by working with warm and cool colors. All the petals are painted in the same fashion. A base layer of lavender, then charging them with the purples, indigo, and a touch of scarlet. Work carefully around the yellow areas. Allow the painting to dry before you work on the petals adjacent to the ones you have already done. You can now paint the main petals in the same manner. A watery base of lavender, which you then charge with dioxazine, the purple mix of Scarlet Lake and Indigo, and you can also add some pure Scarlet Lake to add a bit of warmth. The main petals and those in the front can be slightly darker as they are more prominent. While you wait for the petals to dry, you can start adding some definition and layering to the leaves and stalks using the green and adding dabs of yellow or indigo to create light and shadow. Let your painting dry thoroughly and top up your pigments with some water if they have dried out a bit. You can use an Eradicator brush to lift out some of the paint in the heart of this petal to create some light. Then you will add your next layers of blue and purple with touches of scarlet. Use less pigment on the flowers in the background and add a bit more to the flower in the front. Leave some areas unpainted again to preserve some light. Use raw sienna for the second layer of the beards and add touches of Scarlet Lake. You can use the Eradicator again if you need more light. If you don't have an Eradicator brush, you can use a synthetic brush with stiffer bristles. Wet the brush and scrub lightly on the area you want to lift, then dab the excess out with a paper towel. Remember to rinse the brush each time to avoid paint transfer. Now you are ready to add some accents and details. Let your painting dry again. You can add a final layer of purples, blue and red here, still working with very diluted pigments. Here you need to allow your painting to dry thoroughly. When you want to add a background to your painting, you can decide to start with a background or fill it in the end. You can do the background first to establish the value, to see how dark your elements should be. If you paint the elements first, then add the background, you will have to adjust the background to add value to the painting. There should be harmony. The one should not overpower the other. They should also not have the same value, as this will place your background and your elements on the same plane, robbing you of depth and dimension. You are now going to work wet on wet to add the background. Wet your paper thoroughly and then test your colors on a swatch card before you add them. The pigment strength is important. When you have a wet background, your pigment should be stronger. So water to pigment ratio is vital. You want to create depth behind the flowers, so start with a cool indigo. Add the warmer gamboge to create a tunnel effect. To connect the background with the flowers, you can add touches of purple and green. Allow the paints to blend naturally on the paper. You can also dab your brush on a paper towel if you feel it might contain too much moisture. Allow the painting to dry and get ready to add your final highlights with gouache, white acrylic or even pastels. Add the white where you need to enhance the light in your flowers. It is ideal to preserve the white on the paper, but gouache can be your friend if you need help with this. These specks of white give a luminous quality to your elements and serve as your last few finishing touches. And there you have it. Please like and leave us a comment. Thank you so much for watching. Vaya con Dios.